You know, this was legitimately my Halloween costume this year, and I have to say, for a homemade thing that I put together in about 10 minutes, I was pretty proud of this, and I would love to do the whole review like this, but just like Matthew Murdock, I can't see in this. So Daredevil Season 3 is now available on Netflix, and I have now watched all 13 episodes of the season, and I would like to apologise for this review being a little bit late than most people. It's just, for me, I'm not the type of person who likes to binge shows. I'm not really that kind of guy. I don't like binging. I like to sort of take the episodes in. So, you know, if you're kind of new around here with my TV reviews, just know if my reviews for a TV show are a little bit late, it just means that I am taking my time with it. Especially with something like Daredevil, which is probably one of my favourite TV shows. I was very excited about Season 3, and I have to say Season 3 was, to cut it short, phenomenal. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Daredevil, given the fact that I quite frequently dress up as him for big sort of dress-up events, and also by the fact, you know, I do own the Season 1 Blu-ray and the Season 2 Blu-ray up there as well. I'm a big fan of Daredevil. I think he's such an interesting character, and the version that they've managed to interpret on Netflix, I think, is a really well-established, really gritty version of the character that I absolutely love. So it's safe to say, you know, having to wait 2.5 years for Daredevil Season 3, my hype expectation level was pretty high, and I have to say, this season did not let me down 1 ounce. I mean, it goes without saying, but Charlie Cox is just born to play Daredevil. Like, he is brilliant in this. Not only is he able to maintain that kind of misguided, kind of, you know, unusual look to him due to the fact that obviously Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, is a blind character. It's not overdone and it's not distracting. It's just really subtle acting that's really good, especially in the episode 4 fight scene, which I'll get to later. You know, just the way he's able to act through that is truly spectacular. His emotion's great, his seriousness is great, his duality is great. There's just everything about Charlie Cox is so good in this. He's such a good actor. He's so great. And seeing him as Daredevil once again was really nice, especially because this was like a different turn for Daredevil. I mean, Daredevil's always been a dark show, and he's always been a dark character, but this is probably the darkest we've ever seen him, and I really appreciated that. He was great in this. And Charlie Cox, I honestly think he's like, he should get some awards for some of this. Like, he's incredible in this show, and he continues to do that in Season 3. Also, Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. He returns as the main villain of this season, and what a acting talent he is. I mean, I love Vincent D'Onofrio, and especially my favourite role from him of all time is Wilson Fisk in Daredevil. He is just overpowering. He has this presence. He's intimidating. He's scary. When he steps into a room, you feel unnerved. You feel on edge because you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what his next move is going to be that he's going to execute. He is just so unpredictable. He's untamed. He is a monster. But it's so well performed. But he also has this sweetness and this subtleness to his performance that almost makes him so likable to a point. Even though he's just a horrible guy, you kind of love him. And like, you're seeing him on screen, his, you know, dynamic with characters like Matt Murdock, with Vanessa. There's just so many little elements that make him this truly spectacular villain. And I've now decided that my favourite villain in any Marvel Netflix show is Wilson Fisk. I think he's just absolutely phenomenal, and this season further cemented that. Another standout new character that came into this season is Raina Dean, played by Jay Alley. Now, when this character first was introduced, I thought, another kind of just cop kind of character, you know, or FBI in this case. It's kind of like a typical cliche character that every kind of superhero show or movie has. You know, they have that cop character, like Batman obviously has Commissioner Gordon, or you look at Arrow and it's got, you know, Quentin Lance, things like that. There's always that cop character that's connected to the heroes who, you know, kind of works with them. But that was not the case with Raina Dean. Raina Dean was a very fleshed out and very leveled character. This character has so many deep levels to him because although, you know, he is a good guy, there's, you know, he does bad things, and he, you know, he's not the most predictable guy either. He's kind of, you know, doing what he can, and usually for good reasons, which again is a very interesting character to put into this world, in the sense that he's not completely good or completely evil. He's kind of in the middle. He's kind of, you know, doing the best he can. But also, I feel like he is just such a good character. I think Jay Alley was fantastic. And like I say, he was such a surprise for me because I kind of expected him to be one of those typical cliche superhero characters. But he really wasn't. He managed to just transcend that. He was much better. His dynamic with Charlie Cox was great. I love, you know, especially them in the later episodes. They were really good together. You know, just the team up of Raina Dean and also Daredevil was really cool. And he was just a really interesting character. Again, one I didn't expect to like, but I ended up loving. And we cannot do a Daredevil Season 3 review without talking about Wilson Bethel as Special Agent Benjamin Poindexter, who was just fantastic in this. Obviously, if you know the comics, you know Benjamin Poindexter is the superhero identity of Bullseye, who is one of Daredevil's biggest villains from the comics. And yes, we do have Bullseye introduced in this season. Although he doesn't fully become Bullseye, he's still pretty much that character. And you see the origins of that character truly starting to get started to implement into this show, and he was brilliant. I mean, when he first shows up and you first see that, you see him kind of, in the action, you're blown away by what he can do and his skills. He's very obviously a skilled marksman. But then on top of that, when you finally go into his backstory, it's just so interesting, it's so intriguing, it's done so well and in a very organic way, it's very clever, and you really see how this character is actually a lot deeper below the surface than what you first initially thought, because he kind of seems a bit shallow when you first meet him, but then as it goes on, you see that he actually has a bit of a past and a bit of connection to other characters who you do see show up in this season, and you really understand where he's coming from, and you actually kind of sympathize with him at a point. Even though, he's a horrible person, he's a murderer, you do kind of sympathize with him, and I think, again, that's really superb writing. Also, on a side note, they do actually call him Dex in this show, and I have to say I relate to that on a personal level. My childhood nickname is actually Dex, so I'll take that. Now, one of the standout things about Daredevil, no matter what season it is the action. The action is always top-notch. This is like top-notch action on TV. This is the standard. In season 1, we had that hallway fight scene, which nobody thought they'd top, and then they basically did top it in season 2 with the stairwell fight. And I'm sure you've heard people talk about this, but in episode 4, we do have the 11-minute uncut fight scene in the prison, which is just a masterclass of TV action. I don't think anything will ever top that. It's just absolutely incredible. The way it's all flowed through, the way Charlie Cox acts throughout it, the way they keep adding more and more guys to it is insane. The scale of it is massive. The way it ends as well and moves into episode 5 is really fun. And I just think that this scene just perfectly exemplifies why Daredevil is the pinnacle of action on TV. It's so well executed. And even without, just the stunt choreography, the choreography in general, the stunt work, the editing, the camera work, it's all so well put together. It's like a massive puzzle, all these little pieces that are put together in just the right place to make this an incredible action set piece. And what I've always loved about Daredevil is its writing and its dialogue. It's always been such an engaging show because of how well the characters are fleshed out and how well the relationships are established. And when you see them talking to each other, it's just really entertaining. Even if it is just a basic conversation, it's still engrossing in that sense. And when we move into more political stuff, like I said, with stuff with Raina Dean and the FBI and Poindexter, you get some really interesting dialogue going on there. And again, every character has a moment in this show to shine, and that's always perfect, especially because in these shows sometimes they struggle with that, but to see how every character just got their moment was really awesome to see. And a major problem that these shows usually face is pacing. One of the major complaints you'll see across the board with the Marvel Netflix shows is that they're too long. Everyone says, 13 episodes, it's too long. And I thought maybe this season might have gone down because obviously Iron Fist Season 2 did have 10 episodes. But Daredevil Season 3 does go back to 13. However, I will say this is probably the first, maybe ever, instance in a Marvel Netflix show where I felt it didn't drag. The pacing was perfect in this. Maybe the first 2 episodes were a little bit slow to begin with, but once you get past those first 2 episodes, it's perfectly paced. I mean, I don't think it should have been any longer, but I don't necessarily think it should have been any shorter either. I think it's a perfect length, and like I say, this season never felt like a chore, which sometimes the Marvel Netflix shows can feel like. Sometimes it feels like you just have to get through them, you have to kind of get pushed through them, but this, I was excited every time I watched an episode. I was excited to go back to it every single time I went back to it, because again, it was just so much fun, it was engrossing, it was really intriguing, and everything about it just made me excited to go back and watch more Daredevil, and I really wanted more and more and more and more. And like I say, the pacing is a big part of that. My only negative with the season is episode 10. I just don't really think that episode was necessary. It's kind of like a Karen Page backstory episode. It just kind of felt a bit irrelevant. It felt completely out of place. It took us away from the main story, although it does kind of tie in at the end, because it's only really like 45%. It's only about 75% of the episode. It's really distracting when it's just like episode 9 ends in such a way, and then you go into episode 10 and it's just this completely separate thing, especially because for Karen Page, who is a character I generally like, this episode should have came in season 1. That's when this should have came, or at least in season 2. I don't really feel like it was necessary in season 3, and I thought maybe they were setting up for something, but then they don't actually do anything with that, so I was like, okay, that's kind of irrelevant then, so this episode is completely pointless. So although the episode is good and it's perfectly well acted, it's gives you some depth on Karen, I just don't really think it was necessary, and for me it stood out like a sore thumb in comparison to the rest of the season. Overall, though, Daredevil Season 3 is just, like I say, I keep using this word, but it's a masterclass of television. I dare even say masterpiece. This is just a really solid place of TV. Like I say, this is just like among the Marvel Netflix stuff, Daredevil has always been the crown jewel, and this is even more of a diamond in the in the rough, I guess you could say. It's really incredible to watch, with just amazing performances, especially from Charlie Cox and also Vincent D'Onofrio, also Wilson Bethel as Benjamin Poindexter, and Jay Ali as also Special Agent Raina Dean. And just the action is so engrossing, the story's great, the way they were able to adapt Born Again and also Guardian Angel was really intriguing to me, and I really enjoyed every element, like I said, except for episode 10, which really stood out to me. Other than that episode, I think this is just a perfect season of Daredevil, perfect season of Marvel Netflix. Not only is this the best season of Daredevil, this is the best season of Marvel Netflix. And I'm going to go as far as to say, to scrap everything I just said, this is the best season of superhero TV ever created. So did you guys see Daredevil Season 3? If you did, make sure you tell me all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I doubt it. But if you did, make sure you tell me all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie and TV reviews from me, be sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again in my next video.